Hello dear friends, my name is Solomon, and today in this video I will explain you my opinion what equipment you should upgrade first for each hero and how equipment depends on the army compositions that you are using. Let's go. Before we start to discuss the equipment topic, I just want to remind you, please don't forget to write comments below my videos and also hit like button, because this is very important for YouTube algorithms, as this helps YouTube to understand that videos are interesting and YouTube starts to promote my videos more actively. Thanks a lot for your support. So guys, here you see my current setup of equipment for each hero. Now let me explain you why I'm choosing equipment and what equipment you should upgrade first and which equipment is the most versatile for each hero. First of all, guys, the most important equipment for King is Spiky Ball. And this equipment you should upgrade first because it can be used with many army compositions and it the most universal, so it doesn't depend actually what army you are using. Spiky Ball will be good for each of them. And the next equipment that I'm upgrading currently is the Snake Bracelet. The reason is that I'm usually using ground armies, and in my opinion, for the cleanup, for tanking and so on, Snake Bracelet is very good for the king. Sometimes the snakes can even clear up some important defenses or help with enemy heroes and so on. But if you don't have enough ores, you can upgrade the Earthquake Boots, because this is the classical combination of equipment for King. Spiky Ball and Earthquake Boots, they got nerfed recently, but nevertheless this setup is very good for the King. It can be used for some ground armies when you need to open up walls in the middle of the base, for example super witches or titans or anything like that, or bowlers, super bowlers and so on. For root riders, the Earthquake Boots is not that important, but I've seen lots of attacks when King is used to create a funnel, and for creating funnel, Earthquake Boots with the Spiky Ball are also very good. Also, there is a classic combination that was used when the equipment came out at first, and the Giant Gauntlet with the Rage Crystal with Rage Gem is also a good variant, but sometimes you can just waste your King ability because King has got distracted, or Tornado Trap, or Skeletons and so on and so on. That's why Giant Gauntlet not very popular right now. And as I said, number one priority for the King is the Spiky Ball, and the second one, if you have ores, you can upgrade Snake Bracelet. It's also great, but if you don't have it, you can use the Earthquake Boots. The Barbarian Puppet is not used at all right now. The same with the Vamp Stash. I know sometimes it's good when King is clearing buildings on the edge of the base, but it's not very popular and it's not very universal. I mean, you cannot use it with different army compositions. The next hero that we are going to discuss is our Queen. And recently we got a new equipment. It's called Action Figure. And I've seen lots of attacks and also pros using this type of combination of setup for our Queen. Together with the Magic Mirror, this figure is great to create a mini squad around your Queen, and this also helps with the cleanup, also helps with the funnel creation. Also, sometimes in the middle of the base you can use your Queen ability and there will be a small army spawned with these two abilities, but it's very expensive. And also sometimes, for example, for the Legends League, better to use the Giant Arrow, because with the Giant Arrow you can activate the invisibility towers, and when you don't know what base you are going to face, this is a Legend League type of attack, you need to have an option to activate invisibilities, and for that Giant Arrow is very important. And the classic combination and the setup for our Queen is this: a Giant Arrow with Healers. Healers is always good. It helps to Queen to live longer, and as I said, Giant Arrow can be used for activation of invisibilities, to take down the sweepers, the air defenses and so on. But if you know exactly what base you are going to face, you can use the Action Figure with the Magic Mirror. It's a great combination, but as I said, it's very expensive with the ores. Also, you should not forget about the Frozen Arrow. This equipment was very popular in the beginning, and you should not forget that with this equipment, Queen can take down enemy heroes one-on-one without any problems. Also sometimes can kill the Clan Castle troops, except the witches. But nevertheless, Frozen Arrow is still quite strong equipment, but it's not that popular because it's not that universal as the Giant Arrow. So like I said, there are two setups, classical setups for Queen. This one, the cheap one, and action figure with magic mirror is expensive one. The next equipment that we are going to discuss is for our Minion Prince. And here there is an equipment that have to be upgraded priority number 1, and this is Dark Orb. This is a very good equipment. It helps with the ground armies, with the air armies, because it freezes the big chunk of base, and this helps your troops to clean up and to get less damage. The next equipment, I mean the second equipment for your Minion Prince can be different. The classical variant, which was the first setup for our Minion Prince, is this puppet. And this is good equipment. I mean, when you are attacking with dragons, for example, you create additional troops in your army. Also, they are protecting Minion Prince, but I see now lots of pros are using metal pants, and this helps to give your Minion Prince more sustainability. It lives longer, it takes more damage, but now I'm using this type of equipment together with the orb, and this helps to do several distance attacks without getting any damage. And sometimes if you're using Prince like for the cleanup separate from your main army, it helps to destroy in the beginning, for example, air defenses, single inferno towers, and so on. So for Minion Prince, as I said, the main equipment is the orb, and the next one you can choose metal pants or this new noble iron. The next hero that we are going to discuss is our Grand Warden, and here there is no clear situation. I mean, there is no clear answer, because all of the equipments except the lava puppet are great, and it will depend on the army that you are using. The most classical one is this Eternal Tome, and this is very versatile equipment. You can use with with all of the armies. You can use this tome. So priority number 1 for Grand Warden, in my opinion, is this Eternal Tome, and the next one will depend on your army. It can be either the Rage Gem or the Healing Tome, because both of them are very good, and depending on your army you have to choose whether you need more damage, it's a Rage Gem, or you want additional healing with the Healing Tome. And for example, with Root Riders, both of these setups are great, and with all armies that have healers in the army, the Rage Gem is great, because this provides additional power of healing for healers. And separately you have to think about the Fireball. When it came out, it was very popular. There were lots of bases versus this Fireball, but then people switched to the through the Royal Champion dive, and that's why Fireball is not that popular, but it's still very powerful, and depending on how you can use it, you can destroy a big part of base with the CC building and so on and so on. But with the usage of Fireball, you have to pay attention to your Grand Warden, because there is a big risk that you can lose your Grand Warden. But still, the Fireball is still very powerful, and I believe that when the temporary troops are end, we will start to see Fireball more frequently. And for example, I've been using Fireball Super Witch army for a long time, and I still love it, and I still think that witches are strong. That's why you have to consider the upgrading of Fireball, but at first you need to upgrade like common equipment, and that is the Eternal Tome and the healing, for example, setup, or Eternal Tome with the Rage Gem. This is cheap setup, and this is a very versatile setup. You can use it with lots of different armies, and currently I'm using this on my Grand Warden. Also, Life Gem is pretty good, but we get used to the Eternal Tome ability of Grand Warden, and lots of armies using this Eternal Tome. For example, when you have a very strong core of the base, without Eternal Tome your troops can die very quickly. That's why Eternal Tome is still probably #1 priority for the Grand Warden. And the last hero that we are going to discuss is our Royal Champion. And here the main equipment that is being used almost everywhere is the Electro Boots. This is #1 priority equipment for our Royal Champion, and you have to upgrade it first. If you don't have Electro Boots, probably you can use this setup. This setup is good for distance cleanup of the base. You can destroy some defenses on the edge of the base without getting any damage for the Royal Champion, and in my opinion it's still pretty good setup for the Royal Champion. But as I said, #1 priority, you should upgrade the Electro Boots, and with the combination of and with the Electro Boots there are several variants of equipment. First one is a Rocket Spear, and I've been using Rocket Spear for a long time, but I've seen lots of pros and other players using the Haste Vial. It's also great, especially if you do a long RC dive into the base. Sometimes it can help you to take down important buildings quicker with a combination of a rage spell, for example. But you can also use the Hog Puppet. It's also great, but for Town Hall 17 it's more difficult to use the full potential of Hog Riders, because there are lots of splash damage, scatter shots, fire speeders, and so on and so on. That's why sometimes when you use your Royal Champion ability, all the hogs that are created by it are just melting down because of this splash damage. That's why in my opinion Hog Puppet is not worth of investing ores in the first priority, and you should go, I think, first with E-Boots and the Haste Vial, and then you can switch to the Rocket Spear. Besides, Rocket Spear, as I said, can be used with the Seeking Shield. It's also a great opportunity. So guys, now on your screens you can see the setup that I'm using right now. I'm using it with the Disarmers, but and I'm using the Minion Prince as a separate hero to make a cleanup on the on the back end of the base. But even with the Root Riders, Witches, or so on and so on, you can use your king with the Snake Bracelet. So as I said, guys, #1 priority, I have explained you my opinion. I would like to write in the comment section, what do you think #1 priority for each hero and why? What setup are you using, and what plans of upgrading you have in mind? Because sometimes players are using a setup just because they don't have the necessary equipment upgraded yet, and they are just slowly upgrading the required equipment. But as I said, this is for me the best setup. But actually sometimes there are some unique army compositions that are based on some equipment, for example Super Witches with the Fireball, and for that of course you need a Fireball. That's it for today, guys. Please write your opinion about what I've said in this video, and I see you in the next one. It was Solomon. Bye.